And start streaming. Are you sure you want to start streaming live events? Hey guys, what's going on? My teammate Junior again. Pale Lip Problem. Actually, you know what? Hold on. Looks like we have double audio. I don't know. Hold on, guys. Sorry. All right. So, round two. Hey guys, what's going on? My Caveman Q here again. Pale Lip Problem Island. My caveman.com. We got another edition of Monday Nights with Mike live stream Q&A. Ask me anything health related. Yo, James, Jody, how you guys doing? Let me know how we're doing down below. Looks like we're a little bit laggy. Ugh. Let me see. So we've apparently been live for a minute 30 now. CPU processing a little high, but what's up, guys? So add those comments down below or to the side. You'll see it on the side right there. What I am going to do now, though, is I'm going to switch over to the double screen view because should help to clear up a little bit of the lag. All right, so yeah, I see right now stream status is showing bad. I gotta figure out what the hell's going on with that. I don't know if it's my internet or what's going on, but we're a little bit laggy right there. All right, so whatever. In the meantime, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about an article that one of my clients sent to me, my good friend Murray, and what we can do with that is you obviously can put some questions into the comment box, and while you do that, I'll be discussing this. We can come back and forth between the various between your own questions and this, and then we'll move on to other things as we move forward. So yeah, just put your questions in the live chat, which you'll see on the right hand side, and I will start going with this. It's the aliens. Yeah, it might just be the aliens. Totally right, Jody. All right. So, talking about this right here. Are ketones insulinogenic and does it matter? All right. So, this one here is from Marty Kendall over at Optimizing Nutrition. The guy's a real smart guy. I'm pretty sure he's an engineer by trade, but real bright guy. And he's been able to put together some interesting thoughts on both improving nutrient density, which actually, if you look right up here, his nutrient optimizer, great website overall. Guy puts together some like tremendous stuff. Now, those of you, a lot of you know that I'm relatively high on exogenous ketones, but Marty himself is not very good, and he makes some compelling points. And a lot of the issues he has with it, which he addresses in this article, are concerns I've had, and which is why I like to think that they are more of a tool versus, say, an actual end all be all. This is the one's gonna cause you to lose fat like nobody's business, which is why both myself and over at Rebel Health Tribe, we've always tried to make it such that we're not really focusing on the weight loss aspects. Honestly, it's not really the best thing there. So put that on mute. Is there any echo or anything going on? If so, let me know. But beyond that, let's get started with this. Again, put your questions and comments down in the live chat if you have other ones. That way I can address those. But while I'm waiting for some new live ones, we will go and discuss the exogenous ketones. So we'll go through this article real quick. And again, one other thing I really like about this is the fact that he really addresses various. He addresses it to the depth of it pretty well, and he actually addresses the science. We can actually pull up the articles themselves over on PubMed if we're so inclined. But yeah, so a lot of hype around the interwebs lately about exogenous ketones, whether they're health promoting, particularly for people with conditions that relate to excess insulin, such as, and I remember that's important, such as diabetes, TBI, traumatic brain injury, Alzheimer's, cancer, epilepsy, obesity, and ketosis. Super awesome for those, almost definitively. Where it gets a little squirrelier is with regard to the exogenous ketones. But building off of that, we have the exogenous ketones becoming trendy in the low carb. Awesome. Thanks for letting me know that I sound good there, James. Okay, so exogenous ketones becoming trendy, low carb. Are you ready? And as you guys know, yes, I am a prove it backed person. Mostly because at the time that we got involved with it, it was the single best product on the market at that time. But more on that in a little bit. So it has been proposed that ketones can be insulinogenic, that they can actually induce an increase in insulin. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, we built through it. Apparently, we've known since 1964 that there can be, but while ketones do have a hypoglycemic, a blood sugar lowering effect, they have a stimulatory effect. They basically have a negative feedback loop. Your body senses the fact that there's lower blood sugar because of the ketones, which in turn, though, the elevated ketones then goes and releases from the pancreatic beta cells insulin. So indicate that ketone levels are also controlled subsequently by that insulin due to the presence of the elevated ketones. What does that mean? A lot of you probably haven't watched a bunch of my ketone stuff. So short brief through that. Short brief breeze through on that. Hey Shoshana, what's up? So essentially what happens is when your body goes into when you restrict carbohydrates and to a lesser extent protein, what ends up happening is your body, particularly your brain, needs another fuel source. While your muscles and a lot of your other organs can use free fatty acids, when you break down your own fat tissue, your brain cannot. They cannot cross the blood-brain barrier. It's a wall, can't get through it. No good. So in that process, what ends up happening is a lot of times you will switch over to the use of ketones. And I made that sound like your body has a choice. It really doesn't. If you don't have adequate amounts of oxaloacetate, which is a product of carbohydrates and protein, your body will switch over to ketosis. Let's be clear on that. Now, not every cell can use ketones, but your brain does actually perform very, very well on them. And that's the part of the reason why people would want to have take exogenous ketones. Now, what's interesting with that, with the exogenous ketones, is the fact that you're able to take them, you're able to get some of the therapeutic effects of a ketogenic diet without having to resort to, basically lowering your carbohydrates to the point where you're not really eating anything. So, eating anything that you would normally consider food. Lots of bacon, lots of cheeses, lots of other dairy, lots of eggs, lots of meat, some fibrous vegetables. Anyway, getting past that point. Essentially, the whole idea of that is that by lowering your carbohydrates that far, you're going to control your insulin levels a little better. And the problem with that now is that we're looking at the effects that ketones can have on insulin. So, dietarily, by doing it through nutrition, they're probably not going to raise your insulin levels that crazy high. By taking exogenous ketones, conversely, what could happen is that you end up actually increasing insulin. You don't want that necessarily to happen if you're trying to burn fat. And guys, again, if this is getting too crazy and you want to talk about something else, put it down to the live chat. I'm totally here to answer live questions. I'm just covering this while I wait for some more of yours. But anyway, essentially, what happens is when insulin's released, your body has problems breaking down body fat or engaging in lipolysis, which we see right here. The question is, can the ketones do it? And yeah, apparently they can. They have effects on insulin and glucagon secretions that can potentially contribute to the control and the rate of the formation because of anti-lipolytic and lipolytic hormones, respectively. Ketones have a direct inhibitory effect on lipolysis in adipose tissue. So again, it's coming from this study from 1964, which we have right here. Let's see. So evidence for a stimulatory feedback on ketones. We've got the PDF, boom. Let's see it right here. So Marty goes and cites this super old but still relevant article here. Basically that it's hyperketonemia. Now he discusses more on why that could be a problem in a little bit, but if we look right here, going back, it seems that they are indeed insulinogenic to some degree. But how do we test the hypothesis? Well, one way you can do it is in type 1 diabetics. Type 1 diabetics can result in a situation where they have something called diabetic ketoacidosis. And essentially what that is, you have an elevated level of ketones and an elevated level of blood sugar. So here, both their blood glucose levels and blood ketones spiral out of control as they slip into ketoacidosis. Now, that's a problem because, so a lot of times when we've talked about the concept of the acid-alkaline balance, not really that big of a deal. It has more to do with electrolyte balance, but that has to do with the fact that your body very tightly regulates your alkalinity and your acidity. And the way it does that is through the release of various electrolytes between potassium, magnesium, calcium, chloride, etc. And and bicarbonate is the most one of the most popular one of the most important ones. But your body can be if something starts going wrong, you can get induced into metabolic acidosis or metabolic acidosis or alkalosis, being too acidic or too basic, or respiratory acidosis and alkalosis, basically being too basic. So, so because of that, what ends up happening in diabetic ketoacidosis, the elevated blood sugar, the elevated ketones cause you to have that metabolic acidosis. Not a good thing. Now, normally in metabolically healthy people, high ketones suppress mobilization of body fat, meaning that because the insulin is there and it's elevated as well, and there's energy to be found, what ends up happening is you're not going to be burning that body fat if your ketone levels are too high. So moving forward, basically the idea is to see a type 1 diabetic who is metabolically broken and see how much insulin they're going to need after taking those exogenous ketones. Now, he let his wife, who was a type 1 diabetic, try it. Unfortunately, she had some gut issues, which could have to do with gastrointestinal distress from the MCTs. Well, exogenous ketones are the secondary product after MCTs. MCTs coming from coconut oil predominantly. We did a video on why coconut oil can cause GI distress before, so that's part of it right there. Yeah, moving forward. And let's get some kind of questions and let's have feedback, guys. You're killing me. But moving forward, basically another way you can test it is by taking a food insulin index, basically comparing your insulin levels before and after. In this particular chart, we're looking at the 15-minute mark, 30-minute mark, so at 15-minute intervals, what level your change in plasma insulin. So you test your insulin at 15 minutes, at 30 minutes, at 45 minutes, at 60 minutes, 75 minutes, etc., etc., etc. And basically, you have that food. After about 15 to 30 minutes, you see a spike. Certain foods will cause a spike at the 15. Some will cause the spike a little later. The sugar in particular, it's interesting because the secondary spike at 30 minutes of the insulin, at which point we see a precipitous drop because as the blood sugar is getting shoved back into the cells, the insulin levels drop. It no longer needs to be elevated anymore. So you test your insulin levels like that and different foods and creates this insulin index. So he said that a good idea would be to test that out and see what degree they are to be insulinogenic. Well, what's interesting is that there was a study performed by Cox et al. In 2016 which examined exactly this. And again, we can pull that bad boy up right there. So we have the fact that nutritional ketosis and fuel preference. Oh, apparently we're opening this up in a Dropbox file. Let's not do that. Let's open this up for myself real quick, see if we can do that. So we'll copy this, bring it over to PubMed. Dun, 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 dun. Ah, that's why, because it's behind a paywall. But let's see. Ah, I have access to it though. Cool. Oops, sorry, gotta log in there real quick. Don't be stealing my password now. All right, download PDF article. All right. As this slowly but surely loads. Again, guys, you can put your comments in the live chat unless we're seeing issues with that. Hold on, let me see. What's the stream? Still a slow stream. It's saying. It's still showing a slow stream. Oh man, I'm actually gonna unmute myself for a second. I'm gonna see. I'm actually gonna listen. So you're gonna get double feedback. Okay. So, all right, the audio is good. That's good to know. Good to know. All right, sorry. What the heck? Quiet. All right, quiet you. So moving forward on this, basically we have nutritional ketosis, metabolic benefit of ketone metabolism through the administration of ketone esters. So basically, they did this. They actually were able to test whether or not ketone esters, which are a type of exogenous ketone, whether they have an effect on the energy balance and what they do to the insulin. And hold on, I think we have a comment here from Danny. All right. My 75-year-old father has type 2 diabetes and takes pills but not insulin. Why is he able to eat cake when he comes to our birthday parties? It always worries me, Donna. All right. So part of it has to do with he takes pills but not insulin. Do you know what pills he takes? I'd be willing to bet it's metformin. Um, so that would make a lot of sense. So why is he able to eat cake? Probably shouldn't be, but again, it depends. So he has type 2 diabetes. It really depends on what he has going on. Now, regarding the differences between type 1 and type 2 diabetes, essentially in type 1 diabetes, what happens is your pancreatic beta cells are destroyed. So as they're destroyed, what happens is you can't really produce insulin. Whereas in type 2 diabetes, your cells are simply resistant to it, meaning that even though you're producing insulin, you're releasing it, what ends up happening is as it gets released, your cells see it and are like, I got nothing to say to you. A good analogy for it is actually the boy who cried wolf. So essentially, with the boy who cried wolf, what's going to happen is your body sees the insulin, or rather your cells see them, or I went and ruined that whole analogy. Let's try this again. Basically, what happens is your body releases, every time you have that blood sugar, you have a lot of blood sugar coming in, you eat in excess. And in that process, the sugar causes your insulin levels to spike, which then goes and takes the blood sugar and puts it into your cells. Insulin helps to transport it to your fat cells, your muscle cells, to your liver. So it keeps getting spiked and then it drops, and it spikes and then it drops. And that goes on repeatedly until eventually the cells are full and they can't take any more energy in. And essentially what happens is you keep saying, we need more insulin, we have more sugar, we got to put it in there. And they say, I got nothing for you. You told me too many times. Too many times you spiked me and you said no. Too many times you spiked me and it was a false alarm. Wasn't the right analogy, was it? But the rest of the story, forget the boy cried wolf analogy. The actual rest of that, though, is accurate. Essentially, you spike it too many times, and eventually it's full, and your body says, no, those cells, I have no more room. We can't put any more energy in here. Nothing else. So what happens then is that your blood sugar then goes and it stays elevated. It's staying in the blood because it can't go anywhere. They are insulin resistant. So in that case, what you need, in that case, you're not going to need to take insulin because your body already has enough floating around. So now you have elevated insulin, elevated blood sugar going and having the cake there. It's just going to cause his blood sugar to rise even more, and he could get hyperglycemic. But eventually, the energy will be burned and used as something. Generally speaking, it will get put into other cells, or it can get dangerously high. What the metformin's doing essentially is that it is lowering your blood sugar a little bit. Like here, let's pull that bad boy up. All right, let's go here. Metformin. Now, what's interesting about metformin is that there could potentially be some interesting benefit to it. It's one of the few pharmaceuticals where I'm a little agnostic on it. I'm not completely against it. Most pharmaceuticals I'm not a big fan of. That one in particular, not necessarily the worst. So here we go. This is type 2 diabetes and kidney disease. This one's relatively new, 2014. Available evidence supports cautious expansion of metformin use. So that's interesting. In patients with mild to moderate chronic kidney disease, as defined by estimated GFR, with appropriate dose reductions and careful follow-up for kidney function. Essentially, we're looking here at lactic acidosis, okay? what happens here, I mentioned before that there's metabolic acidosis and respiratory acidosis, as well as both of those in the form of alkalosis. And what happens with metformin is that you try to lower the blood sugar. In the process, individuals who have poor kidney function can go and produce too much lactate in the process. We'll skip over that a little bit of that for now, essentially how that happens, but for now, that's the important part. So if we go into the actual study, let's see, let's pull up the mechanism real quick. So essentially, the major mechanism for metformin is that it reduced hepatic glucose production, okay? So is the major mechanism of anti-hyperglycemic effect of metformin, although it has been recently proposed that some glucose lowering may be mediated through the enteroendocrine axis. Entero refers to the gastrointestinal tract. The endocrine refers to your hormones, okay? So essentially, your liver is going to help to reduce that insulin. Oh, sorry, it's going to help to reduce that blood sugar, as are the hormonal effects. So here we go. New aspects of an old drug, metformin as a glucagon-like peptide 1 enhancer and sensitizer. Essentially, without getting too deep into that, what they're saying here is that metformin goes and lowers your blood sugar, which is what you'd need through other mechanisms rather than just simply storing it in your system. It also may have some anti-inflammatory aspects, which is a whole other aspect. But for now, what we're talking about is the fact that it will help to reduce that blood sugar, okay? And what happens there, as it reduces that blood sugar, as it goes through a different mechanism, what ends up happening is, actually here, that says right here, metformin inhibits the mitochondrial respiratory chain, impairing the main side of energy generation through aerobic metabolism. Basically, you're not able to use that energy in the mitochondria, but whatever. The important part for now is that we are lowering the blood sugar versus releasing insulin to store it otherwise. That's the key distinction between in type 1 and type 2 diabetes, is the fact that in one you actually have it and the other you just can't utilize it. Yeah, the boy who cried wolf kind of makes sense in the sense that your cells just don't care. They've heard it enough times. They've seen the insulin. They're like, no, I don't care anymore. Just don't show up to the party anymore. All right. So regarding whether it's a good thing that he's eating the cake, definitely not. Regarding the fact that he's not taking the insulin, not really a problem because he doesn't need it. His cells are no longer able to process it, really. That being said, the metformin may not be terrible. So he's obviously going to be better off not eating the cake, but most people are going to be better off not eating cake. But yeah. Thank you. You're very knowledgeable. Thank you very much. That was Donna saying that to me, so thank you, Donna. If he loses weight, can he reverse his diabetes? So it's one of those where, from that legal aspect of using cure or reverse, yes, you can. I can't say that it will actually cure it, or reversing is on that little bit of a squirrely side of the neighborhood in terms of language that I can use, but will it support the return to blood sugar homeostasis? Meaning, will your body be able to process blood sugar better, or process sugar better? And can you potentially remove some of that issue? Reverse is probably fine. Screw it, run Livestream, whatever. Yeah, can you reverse diabetes? Yes, you can definitely move in the right way. Losing weight exclusively isn't the only factor, but it will definitely help. So part of it has to do with the cells themselves being metabolically damaged from years of inflammation, but and insulin spikes over and over, becoming insulin resistant, but there is some potential ways of improving insulin sensitivity. Losing weight is one of them. Exercising a little bit is part of it as well. Basically, as you take in factors that allow you to metabolize that energy better, you improve your mitochondrial function. Over time, you should be able to reverse the insulin resistance. Regarding losing weight, that's definitely a part of it. Another good thing, to a low-ish carb towards ketogenic diet, nutritional ketosis, which is kind of what we were segueing off of from the previous talk, the previous articles we were looking at, is potentially a major benefit. There's a lot of benefit regarding the use of a lowish carb to ketogenic style diet for diabetes. Let's actually pull some stuff up. Okay. Low carb, diabetes. Let's see what we got. PubMed. Dietary treatment. Let's see what we got here. That's 2010. This would be an interesting one. Let's see what we got. Low saturated fat on flow media dilation. So that's a little different. That's not exactly what we're looking for. Low carb. We're in low fat debate and theory of relativity. Nice. All right. Let's see if we can find a better one. Let's go and sort this. Here's most recent. That's strange. Using integrative medicine over case report. That's, not getting us too far. Seeing double low carb diet. Should pay as that's an older one, huh? Let's say ketogenic diabetes. Acid-based safety way. Of course, they're going through low carb there. Dietary guidelines, the Nordic diet or the ketogenic diet. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't seen this one yet. This one's brand new. This one is October of 2017. So it's technically not even out yet, technically. To highlight recent developments in researching regarding nutrition therapies for type 2 diabetes with a focus on the different approaches of the Nordic diet and the ketogenic diet. Mind you, I have no idea what the Nordic diet is. So I'm learning with you right now. More individualized approaches in nutrition therapy should be considered for type 2 diabetes mellitus patients, and clinical guidelines should reflect this. More studies, especially long-term studies, are urgently needed on the impacts of the diets on different health parameters. Such studies should be prioritized, etc., etc. Let's see if we can get access to this bad boy. And it is... And I am stuck there. Let's see if anybody's got this. Let's see. Article as PDF. No, I don't want to buy the article. Thank you very much. Last one. Last try on this. Using the last of my little tricks. Research gate. Aha. And it is not available. What I will do, though, is I will request this. Nope, not going to create a project. Let's see. Got some notifications. People send me some information. Sorry, follow it. Email. Okay. Awesome. So we will try and find that article myself. I'm interested to know more about what exactly that one's talking about. Let's see. Other ones. Hey, Manny, how you doing? All right. So, nope. Think. All right. Let's see what we got here. On radiotherapy, on body composition, intervention, ketogenic diet, mRNA expression. We have. Yeah, I tried that one last week, Manny. We talked about that one already. Not too sure. Not too sure at all, Manny. Short-term safety, tolerability, and efficacy of a very low-calorie ketogenic diet intervention program versus hypocaloric diet in patients with type 2 diabetes. So hypocaloric means that there's no change in calories from the current status versus lowering the calories. So essentially, tested a very low-carb diet with less than 50 grams of carbohydrates per day, and compared that with behavioral modification support, the diaprocal method in subject with type 2 diabetes mellitus. So 89 men and women are aged between 30 and 65 years with type 2 diabetes mellitus. What they found was that there was no significant change in the laboratory safety parameters between the two study groups. Changes in the urine albumin to creatinine ratio in the very low carb diet group were not significant or were comparable to the control group. Creatinine and blood urine nitrogen did not change significantly relative to the baseline, nor between groups. Weight loss and reduction in waist circumference in the very low carb diet were significantly larger than the control group. We'll look more into that in a second. The decline in HbA1c and glycemic control was larger in the very low carbohydrate diet group, and no serious adverse effects were reported, and mild AE adverse effects in the very low carb group declined at last follow. So, excuse me. So HbA1c is a marker of long-term blood sugar. It's hemoglobin A1c, and essentially over time. Oh damn, you remembered me. Well, I tried. Have a nice day. You got it, dude. Take care. And for those of you who weren't on last week, Manny was a troll from last week, and hey, but you know what? At least he's nice about it. I don't mind trolls like that, so I like it. So essentially, what we're looking at is that interventional weight loss program on a very low calorie ketogenic diet is most effective in reducing body weight and improving glycemic control than a standard hypocaloric diet with safety and good tolerance for type 2 diabetes mellitus patients. So let's pull up the actual study right now. All right. So we can actually, so what we'll do is we'll break down some of the the methods rather, so you can understand more what that's actually saying. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. Okay. We have here, very similar. They're using the pronocal method in obesity. Each protein preparation contains, oh, it must be a commercial weight loss program. Got it. So it's similar to that used in that one. Got it. Okay. The active stage consists of a very low calorie diet, between 600 to 800 calories per day, low in carbohydrates, 50 grams from less than 50 grams from vegetables, and lipids only 10 grams of olive oil a day. What? Okay. Not a fan of this study at all anymore. So this looks like it's actually based. This is where it gets a little tricky with studies sometimes. You have to really look into what it is you're looking at. That's what this is. It is a weight loss program. Let's see. Procanal method. What the hell is that? Pronocal. Is that even what it said before? Wait a minute. I'm losing it here. Oh, it is a pronocal. Apparently I'm dyslexic. I want to lose weight. Oh boy. So this is some interesting nonsense. So this study may not have been as good as we originally, when I first jumped on it. May not look as good. Products. It doesn't want to load. All right, whatever. So there's also some chromium, ginseng, biotin, whatever. 3-stage active metabolic maintenance. So let's be clear on this. Essentially, this is looking at a caloric restricted diet and a specific product. I'm probably going to abandon this study at this point because not exactly what I was looking for. The fact that it's super low, that's 600, 800 calories a day, not necessarily a good thing. I wouldn't be a fan of that. Okay, so Donna says, my dad smoked for 45 years. He quit. Then a year later, he was diagnosed with diabetes. He's non-compliant with nutrition, diet choices, but we still love him. Well, that's the thing. You got to kind of take them as they are, unfortunately. So, regarding that, that could really be it. The smoking can result in increased systemic inflammation, and in the process could result in longer term problems. So it could have a role in inducing that diabetes. It absolutely could be a problem there. Moving forward, though, from there, this particular study, and not the best one. It's part of the reason. Oh, here we go. Here's the procanol. It loaded finally. Assortments, breakfast, cold drinks, confectionaries. Like, what the hell are these confectionery? Pancakes. I mean, that being said, I do have a pancake recipe video. Which, speaking of which, let's pull that up. We'll go here. That way. So, following ketogenic protocol, there are ways of making it work. Ketogenic pancake. Let's see if that comes up. Huh. Don't even have my own videos. So I'll just go to my actual videos. Bear with me here for a second. YouTube. Pancake. Oh, that's the back door. Excuse me. Forget it. We'll go in the back door for a second. Let's open that up. I gotta fix those meta tags there. All right. So we have our ketogenic calzone recipe here. You can take a look at that there at some point. Oh man, the angle on that's terrible in terms of the filming angle. My production values have definitely improved a lot since this point. Oh, terrible. Sorry, guys. Either way, what you could do, like I said, is you make the ketogenic pancakes. Super simple. 2 ingredients, some eggs, some grass-fed cream cheese. Make it work. All right, where's the end of it? There you go. So, bam. All right. A lot of good options, though. I have a calzone recipe, a couple other things there going on, so all good. Yeah. While let's definitely get some more questions going, but in the meantime, while I'm looking at that, what we'll do is we'll go back to this nonsense to the nutritional ketosis alters fuel performance. All right. I need to figure out this connection issue. I need to look into that more. I am not a fan of this. Oh, man. Yeah. Anyway. And actually, you know what? Could do. Despite how terrible that video was, we will still add a little card to that. That way, in case you are so inclined, you can add that there. Boom. Nice. All right. Excuse me. All right. Moving back to that right there. So basically what happened in this particular study, they looked at the plasma glucose blood sugar levels and the ketone levels, or the insulin levels, after a carbohydrate, a fat, and a ketone consumption, exogenous ketone. And if we look, there was a huge spike after carbohydrates and insulin. And in terms of the fat spike and the ketone spike, fat really has very minimal insulin release versus ketones, which have slightly more. Now, if we look at it moving forward from there, it essentially had about the same, about half that of carbohydrates, roughly about the same as protein. Meaning that just like if you were trying to get onto a super strict ketogenic diet, particularly for things like epilepsy or cancer, that in those cases you'd probably want to lower your ketone level just like you want to lower your protein level. So meaning that you wouldn't necessarily want to take excess amounts. Now, that's where things get interesting. It's the total energy metabolism, the total energy balance, both your glucose and your ketone levels here. So what I mean by that is if we're looking at this here, we're looking at type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, mild insulin resistance, and then metabolically active. What we're talking about here are individuals that are okay. Normally speaking, will have about 5 millimoles. You're offline, connected to the internet. Huh. You'll normally have about 5 millimoles of energy, okay? If you have no blood ketones. As you get some more ketones, essentially, you're going to have lower levels here. If you have mild insulin resistance, we were talking about before, you're going to have slightly higher blood sugar because your body can't really process as much, and lower ketones. And then as ketones get a little higher, your blood sugar will drop. When you have pre-diabetes, as your ketones get a little bit higher, your blood sugar, again, will drop precipitously. And then type 2 diabetes, boom, just completely tanks as your ketones go up. Now, this chart demonstrates the concept of total energy. And this is a cute little one with a nice little unicorn over here, where you have a lot of endogenous ketones. Essentially, what it's saying is the amount that your body can produce, okay? The blue represents your ketones, whereas the orange represents your blood sugar. When you are naturally producing your ketones, essentially, your blood sugar is going to be pretty low. Sorry, your ketone levels are going to be pretty low, and they can get spiked upwards of, like, say, 3, just in some cases upwards of maybe like 4, but your total energy is still being kept at around 6. You want it around 5 to 6. When you start to take the exogenous ketones, what could happen is you could get a spike that is above the normal level. And in that process, when you have that spike there, what happens is now your blood sugar is up and your ketones are spiked super high as well. That becomes a problem because now your energy level is too high and your body needs to do something with it. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that while your body producing those ketones will normally lower your blood sugar, eventually, if you have too big of a spike, your energy level is still super high. Now, that's important because when there's too much energy in the bloodstream, your body has to do something with it. And one way that it takes care of it is that it will cause the insulin to go up. But the problem now is that the insulin is super up. If you are already insulin resistant, now you have high ketones, high blood sugar, and high insulin. It's not a good combination. So you're better off, again, producing it in your own body. Now, if on the other hand, we're talking about utilizing it, so we'll skip over the fasting part, but essentially it has a similar process to protein in that it will cause your total energy to go up, it'll cause your insulin to spike, similar to what protein will do. Now, where it gets interesting is oxidative priority. Yeah, oxidative priority. And essentially what that's talking about is what is the first thing to get burned for energy. And generally speaking, in the body, things like alcohol and fructose take first priority because there's little ability to be stored. Technically, the fructose can be stored in the liver, as can alcohol to an extent. It's converted a little easier, but it's part of how there's non-alcoholic fatty liver damage and fatty liver damage. They gets overburdened. So since your body sees them as toxins, they take the first load of balance. From there, protein is second to be burned because, again, you can only store a little bit of amino acids in the blood. Carbohydrates are the last to be burned, well, rather, next to be burned. After that comes fats, which is the absolute last to be burned there. Now, I think it'd be logical to put exogenous ketones somewhere in line with either just before or after alcohol. And the idea there is the fact that your body has no real way of storing them. That's part of the reason why coconut oil causes the GI distress. A major reason why MCTs and then exogenous ketones do as well, because if you take them, they either have to be utilized or they have to be expunged. They have to go out somewhere. So your body decides to a little bit faster out the back door. No good. Now, with all of that being said, when it comes to those exogenous ketones, because they can't be stored, your body has to utilize them. If you are about to do things that need to be, that you're going to be utilized, so if you're working out right around then, or if you are going to be utilizing it in that fasted state, but also in the context of a condition, there could be some benefit to it. Now, moving away from that, we have They're not going to lower the insulin, but they could potentially lower the blood sugar and improve mitochondrial function to an extent. But moving past that. Now, could they produce improvements in performance? That's where it gets interesting again. Now, these studies were, or rather, yeah, that's a different one. Here, in this study, Richard Veach and Kieran Clark suggested that there may be a small athletic boost if you provide exogenous ketones along with exogenous glucose, so sugar, at the same time to provide a dual fuel. Think of it as something like a hybrid. So you're basically providing an oversupply of the fuel that causes your body to burn up the extra fuel quickly. So you're going to have extra carbohydrates, extra ketones. Now, with respect to that, the one problem you run into there is the fact that if you don't burn them off, you now have a super high level of both carbohydrates and ketones, which in the turn leads to that ketogenic diet. The ketogenic ketoacidosis. That's the word I was looking for. Now, if you are metabolically healthy, you're not insulin resistant, it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. Your body should be able to handle it, even if you don't burn off those calories real quick. But if you are not metabolically healthy, that could be a problem. So in that context, I would definitely be looking at it. Oh, I'm not on the page I wanted. What the heck? Oh, yes I am. Sorry. I was looking at the wrong window. Sorry. Don't mind me. Oh, man. So, moving forward. When we're looking at this here, when we have the dual fuel concept, basically the oversupply of energy makes it such that you need to burn it off quickly. And definitely going on a little bit of a ramble right now. Don't mind me. So, in this N=1 experiment Marty did here, he tried a variety of different ones. We have our glucose, ketone. Sorry, he said he tried Keto Prove It with Keto OS and the ketone aid ester. So in the ketone aid test, what he did, he tested at half-an-hour intervals, and what he did was test his blood glucose, his beta-hydroxybutyrate, which is a key ketone and the one that's generally supplemented with, and the total energy balance. And if you look, his blood sugar actually remained around the same. His exogenous, his beta-hydroxybutyrate, his ketone body level elevated to the point where he went up to about that 3.5, 4 mark, after which point what ended up happening is it started to drop off relatively quickly because his body was trying to bring it back to a total level of 5 millimoles. If you look here, it follows the same pattern. The blood sugar really didn't drop when he was taking that supplement. So definitely could be interesting. If you're burning that off quickly, awesome. If you're not, then yeah. Now, he in particular didn't find a massive boost in his performance in his workouts, but he felt better when he fasted without supplementation. And that's because he himself is more fat adapted. And that's a big key here. If you are an athlete who is not already fat adapted, if you are somebody that is already utilizing a lot of sugar as part of the thing, there could potentially be some benefit, provided your total energy balance, which we were talking about a second ago, provided your total energy balance was maintained such that you were able to lower your blood sugar a little bit and then spike that, then it wouldn't be as big of a deal. Or if you were able to take them both and then work out hard enough that, again, it brought you back to here, you could potentially see a performance benefit. That's what that one study was indicating. That's what I've seen empirically through some clients and myself, that there is a little bit of a spike. And that's kind of what we're looking at right here. If you're somebody, the future of it is finding the right dose. And that's what he agrees on this concept, is that finding the right dose to boost your ketones enough to get a performance benefit without turning off your natural fat burning, which is where real performance powerhouse lies. Well, that's part of the thing, is that you're storing something ridiculous like 20,000 calories worth of body fat, regardless of how skinny you are. You have at least how much weight you have on you, roughly around 20,000 calories, I think, something ridiculous like that, stored in your body right now. So that's a true powerhouse in terms of ability to release your body fat stores, can release a lot of energy. Now, they may risk gassing out because you can't access your fat stores as easily. Basically, you utilize less oxygen in order to produce, or rather to oxidize, to utilize body fat as an energy source. You use less oxygen. So if you're trying to work out hard, it actually is a better fuel substrate for endurance exercise. Now, moving forward here, though, perhaps someone who is a normal carb burner might benefit from having ketones raised to the 3 or 4 millimole range, while someone who is more fat adapted, somebody who already is burning more of their ketones, could benefit with ketones in the 1 to 2 millimole range, so as to get dual fuel boost without switching off fat burning. Now, again, this is still experimental, and that's kind of where we're at in terms of where I believe it could be beneficial. Using it as a pre-workout, if you enjoy the buzz you get, definitely a good idea. Otherwise, not necessarily the best idea. You're not going to be burning fat because of it. That's a common thing we see with exogenous ketone marketing. It's not great because, unfortunately, it is predominantly in the MLM market. A couple other things to talk about is with tumors, and there could be some interesting research on that coming out soon. Using it with kids, potentially, depending on what we are talking about. I'd much rather, particularly if we're talking about a kid who has epilepsy, see them not be on exogenous ketones. I'd rather them get to a ketogenic diet, but kids are kids, and maybe go with that. And this, of course, is the nonsense we'll see with the keto OS. But yeah, long and the short is that endogenous ketones, actually going into a ketogenic diet, is free and relatively risk-free as well. Now, there are some potential benefits to it, particularly in certain conditions. And by keeping your insulin load of a normal diet to the point you can maintain normal blood sugar and blood insulin levels. Then occasionally you can push the time between your meals and not really be as big of a deal. All right. So, getting blown up over here. And yeah. Now, just saw a message there. And Donna, you can ask the other question as well. I know we were talking a little earlier about getting some other questions in. So this one, it really is. I think we've been some people have a little bit of issues, not necessarily issues, but confusion on the method that we're doing these. Just because I have the study stuff open doesn't mean that we can't talk about open topics. So they are open. It's available to everything. The idea is that, especially since we switched over from Facebook to YouTube, sometimes the live and YouTube has issues now with notifications that some people don't get. Even if you're subscribed, you don't necessarily get a notification. It's a little squirrely. But if you subscribe and you hit the little bell, you can be informed when it's coming. So not everybody gets the notification that we are live. And because of that, because the notifications are a little wonky, what ends up happening is you could potentially not know. So I'm kind of rambling at this point. Ugh. What I'm trying to say is that because the live questions aren't coming in as hard and fast, I want to make sure I always have a topic to cover. So usually it's people who are messaging me, I'll make sure to go through with that. All right. So yeah, we can always take some more questions. So please, put your questions on in there. Moving forward, though, we basically covered what we were talking about there regarding the nutritional ketosis versus exogenous ketosis. And I will let you put that down there. Otherwise, if there are more questions, we are right now, how deep are we in? We got a bunch of people watching right now. We are, about an hour, no, a little under an hour. Okay. So, is that not live? Is that not what's going on there? All right. It looks like we have another live chat question there. Looks like Donna's actually put it there. All right. If someone is trying to start getting in shape, what are the top 3 things one needs to focus on? Diet, hydration, or sleep? Thanks. Those are great questions. So, all right, yeah, those are great questions. And I've done a couple of different videos on that over time. There are a number of different ways you could look at this. And if we're talking specifically about just getting in shape, then yeah, those would probably be 3 good ones. Possibly even more important, though, would be stress. Stress is probably priority number one. It's just the hardest one for people to work on. But stress management, probably more than anything else, is number one. Number two would be focusing on your gut. All too often, we eat foods that will either damage our gut, that will change the composition of our gut microbiome, which is the bacteria, yeast, and other lovely microbes that live in our gut, and that the entirety of our microbiome, all of the microbes that live in our body, outnumber our cells 10 to 1, give or take, depending on what we want to cite. But essentially, they are incredibly important. They make up more of our body than we do. And in that process, we feed it the wrong things. Bad ones can overgrow. The good ones that help us out can get turned down, and a process itself is no good. So, focusing on your gut. That would probably be number one. Stress would be number one. Focusing on the gut is number two. And those could be flip-flopped because they are both inexorably linked. Your gut is completely linked to your gut's completely linked to your stress, and your stress is completely linked to your gut health. From there, I would definitely say sleep. And sleep is probably just as, if not more important. And actually, funny, three S's. So I had a video article series that I was working on at one point over my website, and I never actually got around to finishing it because I got swamped and I started making the videos instead. But you know what? Let's pull it up. Let's see what we got here. Whoa, everything just went blank. Come on. Here we go. And if we go to the blog, let's see. Let's expand that for a second. Dun, 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 dun. And what I will do is I will actually, okay. And I really need to start adding a little more onto this at some point, but you know, what can you do? Ooh. I hadn't noticed the little background that, so my my admin and technical support lady Kim, who I actually need to see if I can figure out, she can help me out with the technical support on these live streams. I gotta figure out what's going on with that, but she helped to redesign the background on my website, and actually I like that a lot, actually. All right, where is? It's probably one of the original articles here, but I will link to these in the description of the video. I will definitely add these to the. I'll add these to the background or to the description down below, so you can see this if I can ever find it here. Dairy, gut bacteria, putting you at risk. Ha, the S's, the three S's. Stress. And these are from September 2015. Oh, wow. 20th. So that's actually almost exactly 2 years ago I released this one. Interesting. So, this was a cute little infographic I had made. How stress can lead to neurotransmitter dysregulation, so basically your head. It can lead to gut dysbiosis, which is the gut microbiome, the bacteria we were talking about before. It can lead to micronutrient deficiencies, which would possibly be number 3 along with sleep. It can lead to intestinal permeability or leaky gut. It can lead to dysregulation of your hypothalamus, which is another part similar to the neurotransmitter. They're both brain related, but in turn that can cause sleep disorders. That can turn some hypothalamus then can cause the pituitary to send information to your adrenals and your thyroid, which actually can also send information to your gonadal system, so your reproductive hormones. Didn't really put that one in here because there was so much other things we could talk about, but that in turn can cause changes into your thyroid hormone. It goes all around. So, whole mess of things. If I had to put what are the most important 3, stress, your gut, so the gut dysbiosis and the leaky gut, and the sleep, because all of those can be basically causing, look at the arrows design, they're going back and forth, back and forth. They can essentially all cause each other. to be problematic. Now, what can we do about that? Short term, eat real food, get to sleep at proper times, work on making sure that you are not having lights on too late. Basically, if you are going to be working hard, you might want to look at getting like blue blocker glasses. It's actually why if you look on smartphones now, there's the nighttime mode. What it's doing is blocking the blue light, and blue light essentially what it does is it indicates to your body that it's daytime. Your eyes perceive that, your brain takes in information, and it basically pushes off the release of melatonin because it says your brain says, oh, it's daytime. So fluorescent lights, particularly the blue light, not a good thing. Anyway, stress can cause, and other things can cause stress. So it goes back and forth. That's why stress, I think, is so important, is the fact that it is a feedback loop. Essentially, the more stressed you are, the more damage you do to the other aspects of your health. And those in turn can go and re-stress you. Now, stress is normally, it can be a great thing. Things like the fasting and the ketogenic diets, those are a form of stress. Going and working out, that is a form of stress. Going in the sun, that's a form of stress. Now, those are what are called hormetic stressors. And what that means is they have a beneficial effect provided you're not causing extreme damage and too much of it at one time. So if you're trying to work out for the first time, what you're going to want to do, start slow, work on moving properly first, and then you build your way up, both in terms of intensity of the workouts for conditioning purposes, in terms of how far and how fast you stretch in terms of mobility purposes, and how much weight you're moving in terms of strength purposes. You start slow, build yourself up progressively, overloading the muscles, and that stress, because that's what's happening. Every time you work out, you're tearing down the muscles. It's causing your body to adapt and get stronger because it wants to be able to handle that stress moving forward. And as you do that, as you're able to further handle that stress, what ends up happening is you get more fit. So, if we're talking about the sun is incredibly important to us. Using the sun, we photosynthesize essentially, not literally, but the equivalent thereof, vitamin D. We need to be in the sun. Without the sun, we're gonna have problems. So, if you go in it too long, and if you don't have a quality diet and you're not properly hydrated, yeah, it can cause problems. People are always concerned about getting in the sun and causing and having skin cancer, but provided you're dealing with the inflammation otherwise, it really isn't necessarily going to be the worst thing in the world. You're probably going to be all right. Now, when we're talking about sorry, lost my train of thought there. I was trying to copy over the link to the article over here, to the stress one, but good brain for it. The stress is incredibly important to manage. It causes back and forth. They're all interrelated. Not a good thing. If you want to remind me where the heck I was going with that, because I just brain farted that one there. Stress cause back and forth. Trying to run this through my head real quick. Where were we? Stress will cause back and forth. God, that's why I was asleep. Sun. Yes, the sun. Here comes the sun. Sorry. Yes, the sun. So you go out in the sun. The first time of the summer, you don't want, or the spring rather, you probably should go out in the spring. You don't want to, vitamin D is synthesized. Yes, that's what I was going. Sorry. So yes, when you are in the sun, you get a little bit at a time, 15 minutes a day, and that will progressively over time cause you to tan up a little bit. And as you tan more, as your body releases more of the melanin, in order to get you darker so that way you don't get damaged the next time. It's a progressive overload. Now, if you jump in there too quickly and you stay out in the sun and you're unprotected of any variety for hours and hours on end, what happens? You burn. That is resulting in inflammation. That's going to result in inflammation, and that's a stress. So too much sun too quickly, bad. Slow progressive sun, good. That's a hormetic stress. Same thing with the working out, with sleep. not sleeping is a stress. You need to make sure that you actually get in your sleep in order to deal with that stress. Now, where things get interesting is humans are very adaptable. There are a lot of things we can get away with, and it really depends on what level of stress you have cumulative. And what I mean by that is our bodies are used to seeing a short-term stress, like, oh no, there's a bear, I gotta run. That's fine. We can adapt to that. It's the chronic overtime stress between the poor diet, between the lack of sleep, between inadequate sun exposure, environmental toxins, improper hydration, all of those things. Not moving, not dealing, not actually exercising, doing things, even if it's not traditional exercise, just moving around. Sitting in a chair forever, not a good thing. All those things build up a little bit of stress, a little bit of stress, a little bit of stress, and over time, basically one of them is going to finally be the straw that broke the camel's back. And the amount of stress that you can handle is what's called your allostatic load, and that changes depending on the individual. But over time, if you don't deal with them, you don't remove some of those little stressors, or improve on, if you don't remove some of the little stressors, or oh yeah, no, that's it. If you don't remove those stressors, you're going to have a problem, essentially. You need to chip away at some of the ones that you can deal with. That way, the ones that you can't deal with, like say you have a job that, you have shift work. Working overnight shifts is not a good thing. It throws off your circadian rhythm. That's a problem. Essentially, our bodies aren't designed, generally speaking, to be up at night and sleeping during the day. So because of that, if you have it, it's a stress. Now, if everything else is in line, if you have a great relationship, your bills are being paid because you have that, well-paid shift work. If your diet's in order, your body can usually handle that crappy, sleep cycle. If, however, your diet isn't good and you're working those shift work and you're having problems at home, and you know what? Maybe, like we see here, the stress can cause neurotransmitter regulation issues. So maybe now, because you're working overnight shifts and because you're super stressed at work, both on the job and now it's, let's say a cop or a nurse or something, somebody that has a very stressful job in and of itself. The details of the job are stressful. Now you're putting them on an overnight shift. So now their circadian rhythm is thrown off. And now they're eating donuts because they don't have time to go and actually eat something real. And now you add in the fact that they're working 12-hour shifts, and now they can't get to sleep because they're working 12-hour shifts. Their sleep, besides just being at the wrong time, it's inadequate. So you add all those factors in, and eventually they're going to break. Yeah. Chip away one little thing. Make the diet a little better. And maybe you'll be able to handle the work stress a little better. And then if you handle the work stress a little better, maybe your mental stress is a little bit better, and you don't get into as much problems relationship-wise, whether it be significant other or family or whatever. So make small changes in one area, and that will allow you to move a little bit more into the next area, and then eventually, you make the best choices you can. So that way, if you do go off plan, if you decide to do something stupid, like go out for a long night with your friends, eat something that probably isn't the best thing, you know that your body can handle that extra stress because the rest of it's relatively in order. So taking the small steps to improve everything is going to be the best thing. But number one, focus on the gut. Number two, work on your stress. 3, try and get your sleep in. From there, the rest of it, kind of falls into place. So eat your real food. That's pretty much straightforward there. But yeah, so we are at about the long day. Don't mind me. We're about an hour and 10 minutes in, it looks like. So probably gonna call it right about now. I have the link to that article there. You can also find part 1, which I had done on the 3 S's in general, where I was talking about the importance of all of them. And there's references in there as well. I'm very well known for my references, just saying. But yeah, I have my brain's kind of fried. I'm really sorry. Yeah, we're at like the hour 10-minute mark is what I was saying, and That's not right. 43 minutes. Got that. My thing's all messed up. We're at the hour 10-minute mark right now. So if you have any other questions, real quick, you can throw them out there. Otherwise, just make sure you like and subscribe, guys. I truly appreciate it. All the support you can help. I have the official Ask About the Caveman t-shirt link also in the description, along with Patreon if you're so inclined. I will also put over to Mike's article to Marty. Mike Julian's one of the guys he works with on optimizing nutrition. But I'll put a link to the optimizing nutrition article that we were talking about, that we discussed in here, and I will also put to the other one, the ketogenic calzone. I have a card attached there, ketogenic pancake recipe attaches a card, so you can click on that in the corner. But yeah, guys. If you made it this far in the live stream, thanks for staying behind. If you're watching on the replay, God bless making it that far. Otherwise, guys, you know what to do. I've said it like 8 times now. I told you I'm tired. Sorry. I'm going to go and I'm going to sign off. Love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one.